Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam Keys, and today we are going to be talking about Thomas Partey and what his return means to Arsenal and our title challenge. What can he bring to the team that we haven't had to date, and what does his return mean to Arsenal in terms of quality, physicality, and everything else that goes into a title run? So first, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and please join us for more videos. But without further ado, we're going to dive into Thomas and we're going to have a look at what makes him such an important player for Arsenal. So first up, this isn't the first time that we've seen this substitution this season. And there was throwback moments of when we played City at the Emirates earlier in the season. Thomas Partey, Takahiro Tomiyasu coming on together. And there was kind of that moment in the game where you're thinking, could this be it? Could this be a repeat of the 1-0 win earlier in the season? Obviously, it wasn't to be. Thomas Partey's fitness is in a very different place than it was earlier in the season. But we're going to have a look through his performance and what we think he could offer to the side, because we're not asking Thomas to stay fit for another 30 games. Arsenal have a minimum of 11 games left this season. That's all we're asking of Thomas right now is 11 games, 11 good games in an Arsenal shirt to help see us through the remainder of the season and show the quality that we know he has, what we know that he can offer to the team. And firstly, we're going to have a look at what he actually brought to the game. So he was on the pitch. He came on around the 65th minute, played 24 minutes plus added time. So played the best part of half an hour. Obviously, no goals, no assists. He had 17 touches of the ball, 12 out of 14 passes with an 86% passing accuracy. One of one long balls. He won a ground duel. Lost the only aerial duel he competed in and lost possession 3 times. So we'll have a look at kind of his involvement in the game and what that means for Arsenal going forward. So first up, one of the things that I think everyone has seen, everyone's been attracted to, the big moment of the game that could have won it for Arsenal was Leandro Trossard's chance. So this was trademark Thomas Partey. Receives the ball straight away. He's on the half turn. He's dropped that shoulder. You can see Haaland in behind him in the top left here. Partey drops the shoulder, push away with the right. Off he goes, leaves Haaland for dead. He starts motoring up the pitch, and you can see Odegaard making that run in between the lines, in between the two City, between Bernardo and Rodri. Thomas Partey is able to slide that ball in with ease. At which point you can see with the dotted line where Odegaard's running into, he gets that ball, touch, and a very, very quick release down the line. Now, we saw this last season quite a few times that Thomas Partey could play those line-breaking verticals straight into Martin Odegaard. And the thing I think people overlook with these verticals is what they do. They open up space, and with space gives Martin Odegaard time to play. So that out there gives him the opportunity in a situation like this to get a pass off from deep when he's playing in a very central area, or it gives him that yard further up the pitch to take a shot. Whenever he's got that time, because you're taking 2 or 3 players out of the game in one go, you're not horseshoeing the opposition. You're not pressing them back. You're not going round the outside. You're going straight through the middle of them. And very few players can do this. Declan Rice is getting much better at this, but it's something that Thomas is fairly unique with. And there's very few players that can drop a shoulder, beat a man, manipulate space the way Thomas Partey can, and play those line breakers straight through to create space. And I think what will give Thomas immense confidence here is the fact that he's done this against Manchester City. He's done this against the best team in the world and the best number 6 in the world in Rodri. So the ease at which he does it as well, it is at the point of the game, 87 minutes. There are some spaces starting to be created, but at the same time, both teams are still incredibly switched on at this time. This isn't one of those where it's a kind of end-to-end game at this point. It's still very cat and mouse, very, very tactical right up until the end. And he creates what would have been the biggest chance of the game for Arsenal had Trossard have played that ball across to Martinelli. And you can see from the bottom right graphic that Martinelli is running in. What let Arsenal down here was Trossard's first touch. It made him have to go into the position that he went to and take the shot as he did. But the key here that we are analysing is Thomas Partey. Very few players can do this, and it was such a big part of Arsenal's season last year. But what interested me as well, this is a very simple play. There was actually nothing here to really report on. Thomas Partey gets the ball in the middle of the park. You can see Jack Grealish is closing him down. He's got Rodri in behind. Bernardo's closing Odegaard down. What Partey does very well here is he reads where Bernardo's going, pulls it back, and goes to Takahiro Tomiyasu instead. So that means Arsenal are able to get the ball, keep it moving, and keep it away from a congested middle of the park where Odegaard was essentially by himself and Havertz is being pulled back into the circle. This is all part of Thomas's reading of the game. This is a very, very experienced, very tactically adept, technical quality, all those things that you associate with a player that's able to play the lone six role by himself. It all comes down to awareness and technical excellence. So when he gives that ball away, this is the part that I really liked. It wasn't so much what he did first time he got the ball, it's what he does the second time round. Second time round, you can see Thomas turns and he spins and he runs into the space. He gives the Arsenal player the option, Declan Rice in this circumstance. Right, what does Declan do? He's got the ball. He gives it back to Tomiyasu. Thomas Partey comes in. First one, you can see him running in towards the space. Second one, you see him dropping slightly deeper. Again, given the person on the ball the option to play that pass into him. He collects the ball and he spins that ball right across the park. Plenty of zip on it. And Arsenal managed to get out of a fairly congested area of the park. These are the things that Thomas Partey offers. It's that ability to just find space, read it, and manipulate it. He's able to sit in very, very disciplined areas of the park. He's able to analyze the game. He's able to read it. He only wants to get involved when he needs to. And when he does get involved, he's looking for a way forward every time. And we're going to look at his numbers and sort of look at, do they back up the eye test? Do they back up what we see with Thomas Partey? But in this circumstance, Thomas Partey gets the ball and he whizzes that ball out to the right back position for Arsenal, takes the pressure off at a time when City are really heavily counter-pressing us. When they've lost that ball, they were straight on us from the minute the ball left their foot, straight on us, closing us down very, very quickly. And Thomas was someone that he struggled at first to get into this game. He was someone that had a bit of a slow start, but as the game went on, he really warmed into it. And this move all started by him having a completely scuff shot. For some reason, he goes for a volley about 25, 30 yards out, scuffs it. It was never on. You're just back. Be careful. Get the ball, recycle it. But it was a point where it was probably someone that was desperate to get involved in the game. Here, what we see is a player that's much more composed. He's had that rash moment. He's had his moment in the game where he's probably thought, right, I can't do that again. This time round, it's composure. He sees the pressure, the aggression of the City players coming at him. He's not taking any chances, giving it quickly, making sure he gets rid of the ball and playing his way into the game. But it wasn't all good for Thomas. Just before that, he had another rash moment. You can see in the top graphic, he comes rushing out to meet De Bruyne for the ball. De Bruyne wins it, and he spins away from Partey. Second one, top right here, we see De Bruyne starting to run away from Partey. Partey's trying to chase him in a leg race. There's a good chance Thomas Partey, who's been out for almost 6 months, isn't going to win a foot race with Kevin De Bruyne. Even though De Bruyne has been out a similar length of time, we know Thomas isn't great at running backwards. So in this circumstance, he either needs to take De Bruyne down in this position. This is the point of the pitch. Look how many City players are coming forward. There's only 2 Arsenal players ahead of Thomas Partey that we can see. Ben White's in the picture somewhere as well. But the City player that is ahead of De Bruyne in this circumstance is Erling Haaland, the most dangerous striker on the planet. And Thomas lets him run past him. So, third graphic, he's well beaten at this point. Somehow De Bruyne has managed to get the best part of 3 or 4 yards on Partey. And that's only going to increase. We can see in the final graphic how far De Bruyne carries the ball down the pitch. Now, De Bruyne is not a road runner. He's not a Martinelli type player that can really run away from you. And that's a worry, the fact that that's happened with Thomas Partey. We can put it down to legs here. We can put it down to a man that's not fully fit. But what I liked about this was how he reacted. So we see the character of players when something goes wrong. At this point, I was really worried about Thomas Partey. I was thinking, this is why we bought Declan Rice. We saw De Bruyne run away from him last year at the Etihad. But there's not many players over the last 4 years have ran away from Thomas Partey in this fashion. For some reason, De Bruyne seems to be able to do it with him, and it's possibly a psychological thing. But what I liked, as I said, is how he reacted. He reacted with maturity as a player that was ready to go and play the game. Again, he realized he had made that mistake. He's not going to make that mistake again. If someone beats him in that position, he's going to stick a toe out, trip them, or he's going to close the space and make De Bruyne stay on his weaker foot. And he does well with keeping him on his weaker foot. The issue is, it's Kevin De Bruyne, and two, he loses too many yards. So you can see in the final instance, De Bruyne gets the ball, Haaland makes the run across the box, across Gabriel, and the ball ends up with Doku, who makes an absolute meal of it. But De Bruyne's pass still reached the City player. That is worrying, considering De Bruyne wins the ball just at the edge of his own defensive third and manages to carry it to our box. And as I said, De Bruyne isn't a road runner. He's not a flying machine. He's not the kind of player that runs away from many. So the fact that this happened is something that Thomas Partey will look back on, and I don't think he'll look back fondly on it. But as I said, it's all about how you react. And for Arsenal, we've got 11 games remaining. You're not going to see Thomas Partey do that again, because the rustiness will have come off. There'll be a bit of WD-40 in those joints now. He'll have loosened up a bit more. He's got about half an hour of football in his legs against the best team in the world. And when Thomas is playing against weaker teams in the league now, which he will be going forward, this experience will be important, because it's all about how you learn from things. And this Arsenal team are great at learning from mistakes. But when we look at Thomas, we have to look at his numbers last season. And that's difficult. That's something that is hard and a bit disingenuous in some ways, because Arsenal have changed a lot in the style of play from this time last year. We were a much more open team. We played with much more fluidity going forward, a lot more recklessness going forward. This year, it's more controlled, measured, much more grown-up football. And that's something that we see from Man City. It's not free-flowing to the point that it's kind of swashbuckling. It's very controlled, it's very positional, and it's very, very mature football. But when you look at Thomas Partey and you look at his passing accuracy, that's the number that really stands out for me. 87%. That's an absolutely whopping number from Thomas Partey. He's a player that when you look at him, you look at his passing accuracy, he comes out at 87.98% every game. And what interests me here is the number of passes he actually plays. He's attempting 69.4 open play passes per game last season. He's creating a chance a game, 26 chances created in total. And you look at the through balls, he's playing 0.4 through balls per game, 11 in total. And his forward passes, 19 forward passes per game. And we see those little sideways passes. Thomas is so good at them. He rarely goes backward, as we can see, 8.2 passes per game. People say sideways backwards and complain about it, but sideways passes are one of the ways that you can open up players. And if you've got movement around you and you're playing in the middle of the park, Thomas likes to look forward. He likes to carry. He likes to drive, but he's also good enough and mature enough that he doesn't need to do it every time. He knows he can play that quick, little cute sideways pass, 5 yards, give it to someone, move into the space and carry it forward and work his way up the pitch. Interestingly as well, if you look at his take-ons, he's trying 1.3 take-ons per game last season, 35 in total that he completed. His take-on success rate is very, very high at 81.4%. And that's something, again, that I think will be a big advantage to Arsenal. Thomas isn't like Declan Rice in the way he's a really powerful, aggressive, pretty quick carrier of the ball. Thomas is more of he's strong, he's got a real balance about him, but a lot of what he does is kind of technical based carrying, very, very positional orientated, and he walks forward with the ball in a way that Declan Rice kind of drives, gets shrugging off players. Thomas Partey is more of a step into space, get it, and do as we saw in the first one with Erling Haaland and that half turn into Odegaard. He does that very well, and that's where you're going to see his take-on success. But all in all, what we see from Thomas Partey, again, 58% of his ground duel success, 59% of his aerial success. he is a player that likes to get involved in duels, and he's a player that does very well with it. So all these numbers show that the eye test doesn't lie to us. This is a player that's going to be very good for Arsenal to have back. But finally, just to wrap up, let's look at Arsenal's success with and without Thomas Partey last season. 73% win rate with him, 47.1% without him. Thomas Partey was a huge part of Arsenal last season, and the fact that we've managed this year without him is absolutely incredible. It shows how much the team has come on. So the fact that we have managed to do everything without him this season shows what a massive addition he's going to be. Tell us what you think. Is Thomas Partey the man that can help drive Arsenal to the title? Is he what we've needed to come back at the final hurdle? Tell us, give us your thoughts. And if you've liked this video, please drop us a like, give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel and come back for more. Thank you for watching. Cheers.